Padre Island, Texas. And today, Hurricane George is the big story. All week long, race officials have been watching Hurricane George as he charged up the coast of Florida and then headed into the Gulf of Mexico toward Texas. The effects are being felt today.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to South Padre Island, Texas. I'm Rich Lures, and we're here to bring you the season finale of the APBA Offshore Series. Mother Nature has other plans, however. Hurricane George is sitting right offshore, a few hundred miles. Not close enough to give us the rain and the wind, but close enough to make this surf into the terror you see behind me. And that surf has forced a cancellation of today's race.
What happened was overnight the storm surge from Hurricane George has come in here, and at 7 o'clock this morning the waves were 4 to 6 feet on the beach. Right now they're 8 to 10, and there's some even higher than that out by the jetties where the boats have to come out. And it would be very unsafe to try to bring the race boats as well as the rest of the patrol fleet out. So it's in the interest of safety that we must cancel the race.
Now, we had some great racing yesterday in calmer seas, but before we show you those highlights, my broadcast partner, Dick Crippen, will take you through the race for the Open Class National Championship.
Without question, this has been the most dominant boat on the circuit in the open class this year. The team of Matt Alcone and Jerry Gilbreth have really gone together like a well-oiled machine with the boat. Now, they are leading in this championship quest. How did they get here? The main topic for the APBA Baja Offshore Series in '98 would be speed. This boat would set the pace. Matt Alcone and Jerry Gilbreth aboard the Alcone Motorsports would show the offshore world that speeds of 155 to 160 miles per hour were not only possible, but necessary.
There's 5 boats. Any of them can win. You have Bobby Moore, who's always a threat. You have Joey, who's always a threat. You have Johnny Tomlinson, who's always a threat. So any of those guys can come up and beat us.
2 new boats made their debut on the '98 APBA Offshore Series. Veteran boat racer and builder Reggie Fountain rolled into town with this new 45-foot skater. And up from the modified ranks last year, Forrest Barber with his Drambuie on Ice.
Drambuie on Ice 45-foot skater is a pretty innovative boat. We've made some changes to the cockpit this year to, we think, help with the aerodynamics, increase the safety of the boat. We have Mercruiser drives that are modified by Traction Products. We have the best power in the business with Sterling Power. And we think we have a package that is probably more competitive than anything that's out on the field this year.
Carl Myers returned with the number 39. How sweet it is, only with normally aspirated Oldsmobile power plants. Last year's turbocharged motors no longer allowed by APBA rules. And Mercury's factory effort returned with Billy Moff behind the wheel, teamed up with veteran throttleman Joey Impresia. Right from the start, we knew what we had because we had some of the fastest and most powerful boats around. More horsepower gave more speed, but it was an even match from the very first green flag. When we come back, the green flag drops on the 1998 season. The APBA Baja Offshore Series is brought to you by Baja Marine, the #1 manufacturer of high-performance boats in the world. Baja, speed changes you. And by Citgo SuperGuard Motor Oil, the official motor oil of the American Powerboat Association. Citgo, when it counts. Was great from the start. Fort Myers, Florida, and Rich Alcone Motorsports looked like it had never even had an off-season.
Dick, almost like they were carrying momentum from last year's World Championship race. Alcone Motorsports came out of the start of the very first race and said, look at us, folks, we're ready to race. They flew away from the fleet, as you can see here.
But way to the outside of the screen as you looked at that start was another boat, a brand new boat that we talked about just a little bit ago. That's the Drambuie on Ice, Forrest Barber. That boat would actually challenge Alcone Motorsports, and that was the first time a gauntlet was thrown down.
Certainly one of the teams with the highest hopes going into the season was Drambuie on Ice, and since their boats were virtually identical, the Drambuie team felt that they could match Alcone in speed and performance.
Early in the race, it was a race, and Alcone Motorsports was trying to hold on to the lead. But watch Drambuie on Ice. Forrest Barber, who has had experience driving just about anything you can race on land or sea, managed to hold the inside groove, and there is the challenge. Drambuie on Ice pulls up and actually passes Alcone Motorsports on the turn.
Almost as if awakening the sleeping giant in the first test of the season to determine who had the speed. the Alcone Motorsports stated very emphatically, we have the speed in this amazing pass here on the front straightaway at Fort Myers.
This is one of those times when you wish you were a fly in the cockpit to hear what was being said aboard Drambuie on ice, because they had to be absolutely shocked to see Alcone Motorsports just fly right by them. Matt Alcone and Jerry Galbraith taking their very first win of the year, their first checkered flag, to make a statement to the rest of the field. We're the ones to beat. And that would prove to be prophetic. Next stop, Corpus Christi, Texas, and look right away at the weather. Quite different than they had in Fort Myers, Florida. The boats were getting a rough water test.
This wasn't a speed race. This was a rough water race, and it required a lot more throttling work, a lot more strategizing by the throttle men. In addition, the Alcone Motorsports was suffering from mechanical problems, leaving the lead to these two boats, WHM and Drambuie on ice, in some of the closest racing we've ever seen.
And there's a big race off of the water, too, and that's in the high points for the season. Now, right off the bat, Alcone Motorsports went out and won in Fort Myers. That put that boat in the lead for the points. But in order to hold that lead, he's going to have to beat the field again today, and especially Drambuie on ice. But after all, Forrest Barber's from Texas. He would like nothing more than to take a win in Texas, his home state. So Forrest Barber was trying to hold on to the lead in a battle with Billy Moff in the WHM Motorsports. Alcone Motorsports goes down, is out of the race. That will cost him not only in the finish here, but in the overall points.
Dick, that put Alcone Motorsports in a hole that they spent the rest of the season basically trying to dig themselves out of. Meanwhile, WHM Motorsports, with Throttleman Joey Imprescia on the wheel, they were loving the rough water, and they were showing the Drambuie team the way around the course until they got a little too confident, slowed down just a little too much, opened the door a crack, and John Tomlinson on the throttle slammed through that crack right here in one of the key points of the season.
As Drambuie on ice came across the finish line in Corpus Christi for the checkered flag, it was one of the closest finishes in offshore racing history. Look at this. One, there's number 2 coming across, the WHM Motorsports, and right behind them, the third place boat. How sweet it is, Carl Myers out of upstate New York. You think they might have enjoyed the race? There's the throttleman, John Tomlinson, getting off Drambuie on ice, being congratulated by Joey Imprescia from the WHM Motorsports. Next stop, the 4th of July spectacle in Sarasota, Florida. The weekend kicked off with the Kilo Time Trials, where Drambuie on ice set a new world record of just over 154 miles per hour. The new team was riding high after their win at Corpus Christi, and they've moved into the lead in the National High Points race.
These boats are capable of over 160 miles an hour in optimum conditions, and I'm sure that the speeds will continue to progress with the current class rules.
We've broken through the barrier where these big cats can now have blowovers, and that's a serious thing. We hadn't faced that in previous years. I think everybody has to look seriously and say, you know, is that as fast as we want these boats to go, or should we be doing something to limit the speeds? You can have an awful competitive race at 145 or at 155, but once you get blowover speed, now you're talking, you know, serious potential injuries.
And that seriousness was reflected in a testing accident which blew over a brand new open boat belonging to Pat Patel right after this race. As you can see, all of the boats at the Sarasota race were running very, very lightly on the water, and they were kind of saying to us that, you know, there is some danger out here, and the speeds just keep climbing and climbing, and Alcone, as you see there, totally airborne.
Good shot through the cockpit of Drambuie on ice as he takes a little bit of the rooster tail there. Again in the battle with Alcone Motorsports. It would turn out that that would be the major challenge all year long to Alcone. But remember, in the Sarasota race, Alcone was playing catch-ups in the national points. Drambuie on ice was the new leader. Alcone had to take the win in order to get back up into that points battle, and that's exactly what he did. A happy day for Matt Alcone and Jerry Galbraith again in Sarasota.
The following race found us in the tight confines of Baltimore Harbor. Almost an unlimited hydroplane-style course. Flat, calm water, maximum speed on the straightaways. We saw speeds there higher than any we had seen previous to this. Alcone was content at the beginning to let the other boats go out in front, knowing full well that this was a chance for him to compare himself to the boats in mid-season.
Well, Richie had already shown the speed he had, and I don't think there was any question he had great confidence in the boat. And if you look out the cockpit there, you can see on the turn how close he was coming to the buoys. He was very confident that the boat would hold a good line through the course.
And at this race, it became very clear that the Alcone Motorsports entry of 1998 was a very special craft. Faster, quicker accelerating, and better handling than the rest of the fleet. How Sweet It Is, however, managed to hang in there for second place, relegating Drambuie on Ice to third.
It was really tough. We were battling as hard as we could on Carl's back corner for 2.5 laps, and finally we saw a real sliver of an opening on a turn, and we went for it, and then after that we got some clear water and we never looked back. But it was really tough. We had to run really fast.
So after 4 races, here's how the Citgo SuperGuard points look. Drambuie on Ice still in the lead, but just by 3 points over Alcone Motorsports. Third place was How Sweet It Is. Matt Alcone and Jerry Gilbreth were on their way. They now knew they had a powerful machine, and they knew also that they had a target on the side of their boat. Everybody would be gunning for him in the second half of the season. We'll be right back. The 8 APBA Offshore Series open boat, and it was a tight battle in points and on the water. This boat, Drambuie on Ice, was in the forefront.
Leading by only 3 points and pursued by the relentless Alcone, the pressure was on.
Forrest, points battle unbelievable. You got 3 points here, but you know how important it is to finish each of these races.
Absolutely. It is going to become, it's a strategic planning for every race, plus hoping to win every race. But, yeah, 3 points out of 400 and some odd is not a great advantage.
Speed was the big question mark, and this boat was the answer. Alcone Motorsports with Matt Alcone driving.
Conceived in a wind tunnel, designed and set up by Jerry Gilbreth, Matt Alcone had a reason to be very confident with this advanced craft.
Yeah, well, you know, there's 2 ways you could look at the season. One way you could say it's close on points, and, you know, for the excitement of the season, that's one way. But, you know, the way that we look at it is we've won 3 times. Every time our boat's, you know, around at the end, we win. So we just want to keep our boat running, and then we have the confidence that we can get across the finish line before anybody else.
It was a little bit deceiving in West Palm Beach. The water looked rather calm from the shore, but once the boats got out there were some pretty good-sized rollers. Everything was even at the start. And again, Alcone Motorsports made his move.
Each race we saw Matt Alcone and Jerry Gilbreth basically go out at the start and do what they wanted to do. They were the ones that set the pace. They were the ones that the rest of the boats were watching. As usual, Drambuie on Ice tried to hang with them and actually went up and challenged for the lead.
It was always interesting, too, because as the season went on, we noticed how many times Drambuie on Ice would be on the inside of the course and Alcone Motorsports on the outside. And once again in West Palm Beach, Drambuie on Ice took advantage of that and got through on the inside.
Matt Alcone would leave the door open here and there, and always Drambuie would take advantage of that. And yet Alcone and Gilbreth, they had to know that in the backstretch they had the speed they needed to make up for whatever problems occurred in any of these turns. And they used it beautifully all season long.
There they are, side by side, Drambuie on Ice with a very slight lead, not even a boat length. And Alcone Motorsports just seems to hang right in there, very confident that when things are right, he'll be able to push harder down and he'll be able to find the speed as you see him finding it there. And as he finds it, Drambuie on Ice starts getting light.
And the real story, Dick, all season long was in the handling. You saw the Alcone boat go through the same conditions that Drambuie went through and had no problems.
And it left the other boat crews sitting there wondering, what is the secret to the Alcone Motorsports? Everything else looked the same, but somewhere in that boat, something was making it just a wee bit better. Now, you got first in the points at this point also, but you know that there's going to be some homework being done starting right about now, actually.
Oh, yeah, you know, I'm sure that nobody's going to, you know, give up, and nobody's going to give us the title today, so they're going to push real hard, and that's great, and it's going to be real competitive from here on out. I don't think the story's over yet.
And it wasn't over yet. The Citgo SuperGuard points indeed had Alcone Motorsports in the lead, but again, a very narrow lead over Drambuie on Ice. Forrest Barber was going to work on his boat. Next stop, St. Petersburg, Florida. And again, the water conditions just about perfect. And again, it was going to be a match race for all 4 of the entries. Matt Alcone right there, and Jerry Galbraith had climbed out of the hole in points. They now had the points lead coming into this race.
And as the season grew shorter and the pressure increased, the Alcone team seemed to be thriving. The Drambuie team, well, they seemed to be tightening up.
They had to look for more power, and yet here was a boat that set the kilometer speed record in Sarasota, Florida. Once again on the start, the boat's very even. On the outside of the course, the Alcone Motorsports right next to him. Drambuie on ice as the flag dropped. But here was a sight that Forrest Barber was getting all too familiar with. There you see the Alcone Motorsports on his right side through the cockpit, going by, developing more speed, throwing that rooster tail off and trying to beat him down to the turn.
What was so incredible all season long was that Alcone and Drambuie had identical engines from the same engine builder, boats from the same manufacturer, and hull weights that were virtually identical. So it was a question of setup and the little things that made all the difference in the world. The Alcone boat could handle 160 miles an hour easily. The Drambuie struggled at lower speeds.
And this time the Drambuie on ice had a little bit of a test from Carl Myers in the How Sweet It Is. That boat kept coming on stronger and stronger each race and moving up in positions. But Alcone Motorsports, without question, was setting the pace and takes another checkered flag in St. Petersburg, Florida.
And this was following such a dominant performance that the Alcone team was actually trying different lines for the last half of the race. A really dominant victory. Meanwhile, Drambuie on ice had to struggle almost the entire race to get by How Sweet It Is for a well-earned but difficult second place.
Matt Alcone and Jerry Galbraith now in striking position for the championship. Next stop, north of the border in Toronto, Canada. Ontario Place, where a tremendous crowd had gathered to watch the offshore boats, and they go just about 25 yards off the seawall there. So it's a thrill for the drivers and the throttlemen as well as the fans. And Alcone Motorsports, they were primed and ready.
Competitors wondering if fresh water and cooler conditions might levelize the playing field a little bit. They were all eager to see if they could match Alcone on this choppy Great Lakes race course.
And Rich, right off from the start, Drambuie on ice knew one thing.
It was do or die for them. They had worked feverishly between races, and this was their best effort. They had thrown everything they could into their boat. They put every trick that they knew into the boat. They felt that if they were going to catch Alcone, it was here at Toronto. They also knew that if they didn't catch Alcone here, the national championship was virtually lost.
But the scene was familiar right off the bat. No sooner had the green flag been thrown than the Alcone Motorsports, a little bit lighter on this lake course, got out into the lead, and Drambuie and I started to play some strategy here, crossing the wake, trying to get an outside groove, looking for a little bit better water.
Point and counterpoint, almost like a chess game. Each move that the Drambuie team made during the season and in this race, the Alcone team had a counter for it. They'd close the door on them in the turns, they'd out-accelerate them in the short straights, and they'd outrun them in the long straights. There just seemed to be no way for the Drambuie team to get a checkmate on the Alcone Motorsports team.
And as a result of that, the Alcone Motorsports came home for yet another checkered flag. This one very special because with the cancellation of the South Padre Island race because of Hurricane George, Matt Alcone and Jerry Galbraith aboard the Alcone Motorsports claimed the championship. And we'll meet our champions when we come back. The South Padre Island Grand Prix Festival, you can have a great day for racing the open boats. Final Citgo SuperGuard points for the season. Alcone Motorsports 30 points better over second place Drambuie on ice.
Following one of the most dramatic and well-done seasons in offshore racing history, the 1998 Open Class National Championship belongs to the Alcone Motorsports team. And Matt Alcone, you must feel great.
I do feel great. It's been a long year, and what I feel best about is that after this year, I think that my throttleman Jerry can start getting the credit that he deserves. I think this has been a great showcase year for him. He's done a great job.
Jerry Galbraith, one of the best-kept secrets in offshore racing. This is a great year for you because last year was such a struggle.
Well, it was a little bit of a struggle at the beginning, and we ended up winning the World Championships, but it's been great for us and our team, and thanks to Matt, everything's worked out really well.
Matt, you put together a season that's, in truth, probably the best season of any level playing field season. What do you attribute that to?
Well, you know, again, Jerry and Steve and Dick, mechanics back home, they've all done just a really great job. You know, it's my name on the boat, and I get the credit for it, but as you know, I'm only out there 40 minutes a week, and these guys are with the boat 7 days a week. They've been on the road now for a month, living with it, and it's really them who get most of the credit, I think. They've done a great job.
They certainly have, and the boat was flawless all season long. From here, where do you go?
Well, you know, from here on out, I think what we want to do is go in and put in a good, consistent performance in the World Championships and see, you know, what we can do in Biloxi, and hopefully we can make the boat run that well. And then at the end of the World Championships, look and see what these guys are going to try to do to catch us next year.
The Alcone Motorsports team, definitely one of the best seasons in any motorsport ever done. Congratulations, guys.
And in second place, Forrest Barber, John Tomlinson, aboard Drambuie on ice. This was a brand new team and a brand new boat. Not bad.
If you would, take us from your perspective through this season, your first year in open class.
Well, it's been an interesting year. I think it's certainly we're trying to come together with a new team, working with John Thompson and the crew at TNT. I think that came together pretty well. A brand new boat that was just barely in the water when we raced it the first time. Felt pretty good. Continued to try and develop the boat each race and keep up with our competition. It's been, I think both boats, I mean, our boat and the other boats in the open class have developed as the year has gone on. I think we've done real well. I mean, the boat has run strong. We've raced well and had a lot of fun doing it.
Is open class what you expected? More difficult, more exciting, what?
Well, it's more of everything. I think it probably is more difficult. I think that that as you get in this class, the air becomes a little more rarefied for some of the competitors, and there's not as much of a congenial atmosphere as there was in modified class. In some ways, that's okay. It makes it more challenging. In other ways, it's disappointing at times. But the speeds are tremendous. The technology is great, and I enjoy that part of it. And we have a lot of real strong competitors I like racing with.
What's on the drawing board for next year?
We're going to continue to develop this boat. We have a few things we're going to try, and unsure exactly what, quite honestly, but we have some more things we want to try as far as the drivetrain, improving the efficiency of it, continuing to develop the motor program, and we want to turn it into a winning race boat and a national championship race boat.
Well, we'll see if he can do it when he gets back next season. We're sure there's a lot of work between now and then. The Drambuie on Ice team. Now, for the honors to our championship team, here's Commissioner Gene Whipp.
Well, Matt and Jerry, congratulations to a great year. Your national championship. Here's the hats that you were after last year. Finally got it this year.
Great.
Thanks. I'll grab the hat first here.
Well, thanks, Gene. You know, it's been just an absolutely great year. If you look at the races that you put on this year, you've taken the sport to a whole new level. You know, we're just really happy to be out here racing with you. You've done a great job this year. Thanks so much from all the racers.
Thank you.
And certainly a great job done by our 1998 national champions, Matt Alcone and Jerry Galbraith, and the Alcone Motorsports team. Congratulations to them.
Matt Alcone's great line about those hats where they cost him about $500,000 apiece.
That's so true. Well, the surf knocked out the open races today, but we did have racing yesterday, and we'll catch you up on that coming up next. Grand Prix Festival. You can see the water conditions up as we look out on the Gulf of Mexico with Hurricane George sitting in it. The start-finish line on our Gaffrig Precision Instruments map is right off of the shoreline. It's a squared-off course with long straightaways, 10.5 miles with 4 turns. We have 92 degrees, partly cloudy. The seas are 2 to 4 feet with southeasterly winds 5 to 10.
Your points leaders in modified and Super V class will take the first start. The second start will be composed of the A, B, and factory classes.
Now, one of the boats we've been watching all year long is the Out of Bounds boat. They're out of California. They started out a little bit slow, but by mid-season, they really started coming on, developing power enough to take some wins. The Team Baja Pace boat is taking the boats out onto the course. When the yellow flag comes down, the green goes up. These boats will be off and running. Out of Bounds and Ocean Spray. They are the boats leading the pack at this moment. As we look down from our Caterpillar Marine Power camera, we can see 2 West Coast entries. It has been interesting West Coast versus East Coast.
Yeah, Dick, you know, with the population of race boats pretty well evenly matched between the East Coast and the West Coast, amazingly, it's been a sweep in the national classes this year. Open class, modified class, B and A, all the national championships taken by West Coast entries.
Now, right behind that start, here's another start. This will be the A, B, and factory teams.
And a factory 2 boat right up there with the 2 leading B boats. Of course, the B-Boat National Championship is already a foregone conclusion. The rest of the fleet closing up here, and what you have in these choppy seas, it's a great levelizer. So even though some of these boats might be 20 or 25 miles an hour faster than other ones, because the seas are just rough enough with that hurricane beginning to churn up the surf, you're seeing that the boats are unable to go much faster than maybe 80, 85 miles an hour in this water.
Well, they're certainly going to get a ride, and a lot of it's going to be airborne because they're jumping from wave to wave. That means the throttleman is really going to be working his right arm in most cases, because as the boat jumps out of the water and that propeller spins free, it can really cause engine problems and literally burn up the engines inside the boat. That can be costly.
Here in the B class, you can see that the racing is picked up where it's been all season. Dramamine on the inside closest to your screen, and on the outside, Citgo Superguard. Those 2 boats back and forth all season long. Citgo Superguard holds the points lead because they've been more consistent. Dramamine on your screen right now has been the faster boat and has quite a few victories this season.
There's Citgo Superguard, and that boat has been very, very strong. But now look at the challenge on the outside. It is Dramamine. Boy, you almost lose the boats as they go down between those swells.
And those swells can be a great equalizer. Look, there's a factory 2 boat in the middle of the B race, and as they turn, rather than taking the waves abeam, they're now going dead into them. This will be a great test of rough water ability, and you can see the Citgo getting around quicker than the other 2 boats, taking an overall lead in the race right now.
Now the advantage of the longer boats is trying to jump wave to wave. Citgo Superguard's getting a pretty good ride out there right now, leading in the B class. Now there's the Matco Fountain, which is the factory entry that we have been talking about. Paul Nemshoff is driving that boat. He's an experienced young man. There you see Dramamine on the outside. Remember, those 2 boats are in separate classes. Dramamine is in the battle with Citgo Superguard at this point.
And here comes the Baja entry. They're really flying in the B class, closing down the leaders at this point for the overall lead in this race.
Boy, this battle is really a good one, and it gives you a good idea of what can happen. Look at Baja. Team Baja comes up and just splits the 2 of them and goes to the front.
Boy, where'd that speed come from? It seems Baja loves rough water. That's the best move they've made all season. And coming off their best finish in Toronto, the Baja team is really showing their stuff. And you know, Dick, speed changes you.
It certainly does, and it has certainly changed this team. Speed is what they wanted, and as they leap out of the water, they've got great control of the boat. 3 men on board. They have a throttleman, plus the driver and a navigator.
You know, it's interesting that the special purpose racing hulls, the Citgo and the Dramamine, don't have the advantage in the rougher water that they might over the Baja boat at calm seas, because the top end is not the important thing here today. It's the rough water capability. And this bigger, heavier Baja, that's an equalizer today. It's making the Baja more dominant in the rougher conditions.
Great shots from our aerial camera by Caterpillar Marine, because they have got that boat jumping out of the water, and you can literally see the props down on the bottom of the boat. That has to really be giving them a great ride. This is what these guys love when they get out there and challenge the open seas. They are, after all, offshore races, which means they are designed to race in offshore waters. They've got them today.
Yeah, this harkens back to the classic V-bottom offshore racers of the 60s and 70s. These are the kind of conditions that this sport was born and bred in, but today we're seeing speeds well over 100 miles an hour, and you really can't run like that in water like this.
Standings up to the moment in the Offshore B from our Powerboat magazine leaderboard. We'll be back. Grand Prix Festival. Dick Griffin along with Rich Lurs was in competition. Good point to make at this time is the fact that usually there are more B-boats, usually there are more boats in the entire field, but unfortunately because of Hurricane George, they were unable to get a lot of the boats out of Florida. Now we see Citgo Superguard going to the front of the pack.
Yeah, the national champion, Citgo Superguard, asserting their dominance right now, showing what it is that put them to the lead in this class, race in, race out this season.
No question, consistency has paid off for this boat. It hasn't always been the fastest boat, but it has been extremely consistent, and it's always a front runner. Right now, it is up in the very front. It is leading the pack as they go into the turn. We pull back just a little bit on our shot. We should see the second place boat coming up in here. There's Team Baja. Team Baja has cut sharply to the inside of the course. You know, Team Baja has been important to this sport.
Part of the fabric of offshore racing is Baja Boats, our series sponsor. Creators of some of the best performance boats in the market today. They have a long history in offshore racing, having competed at all levels. With us today is Courtney Smith from Baja, who'll explain just what it is that Baja brings to powerboat racing and to performance boating. Courtney?
Well, Rich, as you know, we are the series sponsor and the official pace boat. And the reason we do things like this to show that Baja is a leading manufacturer, and not only that, we're a great competitor. We love offshore racing, and those are the boats that we make. And we've designed our bottoms and our boats to do everything that an offshore race boat can do, and we've designed it for the general public.
What position in the performance market does Baja hold right now?
Well, as you know, we are the world's leader. We're the #1 performance boat manufacturer in the world. We build and sell more product than anybody else. And with that type of reputation, that just lends credibility to everything that we do with the APBA.
Now, performance boats, as opposed to normal pleasure boats, require a lot more attention to detail in construction, don't they?
That's correct. The way that the boats are constructed with balsa core laminates, hand-laid construction, not to mention our custom in-gel graphics, but the biggest thing is our bottom design. We use a traditional V. We don't use any steps or pads. And the V that we've designed is innovative and not quite revolutionary, but evolutionary, but it's designed to give you the best ride in the real world water conditions.
Courtney, we've talked about performance boating. What range of speed, what do we look for in a performance boat?
Well, we describe performance as a lot more than just top speed. Although it is important to us, the best thing that we do is the bottom design, and we give the best handling boat in all water conditions. We're going to get you home safer and drier, but top speed-wise, we have boats that range all the way from 60 miles an hour all the way up to 90 to 100 miles an hour that you can get off the showroom floor.
You touched on graphics briefly. Baja seem to stand out. They don't resemble a lot of the other performance boats out there.
That's correct. Our graphics and even our styling is unique. We have styling that fits every person and personality. We have our hardcore offshore boats here, our Outlaw series, not to mention our sport boat series, which are a little more Euro styled. The design of the graphics and the way that we tie that into the interiors is second to none, something that nobody else really does.
Now I think I understand what the slogan means. Baja, speed changes you.
Oh, he was dying to do that. And there you can see Team Baja is trying once again to take the lead away from Citgo's Superguard. But not only that, he's got to watch over his right shoulder because Dramamine has come back into the fray.
It is a very close race here in the B class. Even with the national championship decided, these fellas came here to race today. They got some rough water, they got their competitive juices flowing, and they found themselves in one of the better boat races in B class we've seen all season.
Citgo's Superguard is doing the job right at the moment, but boy, the competition to his right side with Team Baja and Dramamine, well, I don't know how that's going to work out. We're going to find out momentarily. Meanwhile, back in modifieds, Out of Bounds seems to be riding all alone on the course. It's South Padre Island, Texas. We'll be back in a moment. Grand Prix Festival. Dick Crippen along with Rich Lowndes boat, a green boat out of California. Now, last year, Rich, this boat had all sorts of problems. They never really got it running to where they wanted. This year, they started out slow, but after the first couple of races, they were right up there in the winner's circle.
Yeah, Dick, you know, modified was one of the more dramatic classes this year. We had the early season leader, utterly fantastic, Andy Trouth out of Kentucky, dropped out of the sport after a couple of near misses in West Palm Beach and St. Petersburg. He took a two-boat team out of the sport, leading in two classes, A and modified, because he felt that for the safety of he and his son, it just wasn't paying off to be out there on the course at these speeds. So here came Out of Bounds that would just carefully run the entire course. They were very consistent, laid back, out of California. They played their cards very carefully. They did a superior job of consistency. Now, they weren't the fastest boat early on, but the boat got faster every race. And right now, you see it's for sale. They've got plans for yet another new modified boat next year, Out of Bounds Racing.
All said and done, the points, no question about how they're going to finish up this time with this race. Let's take a look at our Citgo Superguard final points for the year. out of bounds, took the win, 752 points. Let's meet Steve Neely.
Well, sometimes, Steve Neely, the patient rabbit wins the race.
Yeah, I think that's definitely been our credo for this year. We have been on the podium at every race throughout the season. Tough competition. And we started, I think, beginning of the season probably in 5th or 4th place nationally. And we kind of just worked our way up one by one, you know, each race doing a little bit better. And of course, with some of the attrition with some of the other racers in our class that modified, it allowed us to move forward in a couple of places. And as we got closer to the end of the season, we really had kind of a dogfight going between us and Utterly Fantastic, and as well really with John Woolley and Lightning Jack. So it's been a fantastic season for us. We're thrilled to death. It's our first national championship, and boat just came alive this year.
Well, congratulations to a team where patience has literally paid off. Here's another team that did extremely well this year, and they also claim a national championship.
Ex-TV actor Bruce Penhall and Dennis Sagalos had a topsy-turvy season equal to any television series. They started out with a lot of mechanical problems, actually missed the second race at Corpus Christi because they were trying to dial the boat in. Then they came back with a vengeance, setting the world V-bottom record in Sarasota at over 133 miles an hour, and from that point on, nothing in the class could touch them. The Ocean Spray is the fastest V-bottom in the world.
And also world champion. And here's the Citgo SuperGuard final standings. Ocean Spray with 770 points. Let's meet the winners.
Ocean Spray team, Dennis Sagalos, Bruce Penhall. This has to feel real good. National champions.
Absolutely, it does. It's been a real long year for us, and it's starting in the season. We had some teething problems, but we got this Ocean Spray fountain just flat hauling buns now, and it's working very, very good for us.
What was the turning point?
I think once we figured out the fuel leak problem, you know, we threw in some bladders, and we haven't had a problem since. And the FOF motors are extremely fast, but you know, we have to once again give the thanks to the Ocean Spray crew and the fountain crew that work day and night on this thing to make us look good always. And that's it. It really is. These guys work really hard, and we get to go out there and have a good time.
We've talked about speed all season long. There was a school of thought prior to this season that you couldn't put this much power into this boat and go this fast, and you've done it, and you've done it well.
Well, the boat handles it. I mean, the motors are putting out a lot of horsepower, and they never miss a beat, and the boat can handle it. You know, when we did that world kilo record, 133.024, the boat never stubbed its toe, never walked around a bit. It was just how it should be, just picture perfect.
Does open class beckon somewhere in the future?
We're certainly kicking it around with Mr. Fountain. He's wanting us to go that way right now. He's just concerned about his Super V class now. He wants somebody in Super V, but you know, right now it's talk. That's really our ultimate goal is to be up in the open class. We have an unbelievable sponsor with Ocean Spray, and they back us, and they've been with us now for 5 years, and they would like to see us there, and Reggie would too. So it all depends, though. We're certainly content with the way things have worked out this year, but we'll just wait and see what happens next year.
Well, we have more racing to go from South Padre Island. It's not over yet. Stay with us. We'll be back. Yeah, a 34-mile-long barrier island, and it's got gorgeous scenes on it. Over 5,500 hotel rooms. It is a tourist mecca, to put it mildly. Whatever the water sport is, you can do it in South Padre Island and enjoy the sunsets right along with it. And today you can enjoy great offshore racing.
This is the B class, and as you see, that's changed a little bit since we last checked in. The Dramamine has gotten the lead now on Citgo SuperGuard. It's funny, Dick, all season long, these two boats, this has been the story. Back and forth, going at each other. Dramamine got a little more speed, and Citgo's got a little more staying power.
Dramamine's had some problems, though, in staying power when it came to the end of the races, and that's something that I'm sure plays on their minds as they race around this water today. But they certainly have been up there, and they're a strong contender right from the start. These two boats putting on a great race for the fans. Citgo Superguard is the red boat on the inside. Nearest to you is the Dramamine boat. That's red, yellow, and white.
On a sea of blue, and as this rainbow continues down the front straightaway, we have some of the most colorful racing we've seen all season. B class is quite quick. These boats are capable of speeds over 110 miles an hour, and they're able to run course averages almost the same as the Super Vs.
And you always try to keep a level playing field, and obviously they've done that in the class so far. As you look off the nose of the Dramamine, you can see just a little bit of the wave action out there that they're fighting. Meanwhile, back in A, Jerry Sorrentino and Norm Teague battling it out, and in motion, another boat that has been very strong all year long, and look at them fly.
Strong all season. They also benefited from the removal of the Trout team. The Utter boat was leading the national points race in the A class until they dropped out, as we said before, for safety reasons, and In Motion inherited the lead, and they earned it because they were solid on the tail of the Utter boat even before the dropout.
You can see there a great shot inside the cockpit of those guys bouncing around in there. It looks like it's an easy ride until you see they are taking some pounding.
Norm Teague and Jerry Sorrentino, they really matured this season. This A boat did not miss a beat all year. They ran very consistently. Another consistent performer, Pittman Photo Express, Mike Werner, Gary Steinman, they made the circuit as well, and they were quite competitive and well in the hunt right through the season.
These boats give you the impression of a couple of little flies out on the water, the way they bounce out there, and they'll tick-tock back and forth on that rounded back end, but high speed and very good control.
A class is a class for the future. It's a single engine class. It's quite affordable, and yet it's very fast. A little over 100 miles an hour potentially for these boats, and man, they're wild to watch. Factory 2 also came of age this year. Last year we had 1 or 2 entries. This year we had over a dozen. And the Matco Fountain, the Fountain Factory entry, including 2 Fountain employees in there today, give you some idea of another class on the rise. Speeds 85 to 90 miles an hour and climbing, stock factory engines, stock factory boats, something that every man can kind of come into, an entry-level class, something that the average guy can relate to.
Now, we talked earlier about the boats that couldn't make it out of Florida because of Hurricane George. Well, here's one of the boats that got out early before the evacuations were ordered. Team Lazara, Dick Lazara, driving that boat, doing a fine job. It is a Baja, and it's holding second place.
Yes, and this boat likes the rough water. We saw that the B-class Baja was able to be very competitive early on in the rougher seas, and the Lazara entry is equally competitive, getting a lot of air here in South Padre Island.
Well, here comes the winner in the B class, and it's going to be Dramamine. So they come home with a victory, and I know this solves a lot of frustration that they had, because I said earlier, they have had their problems finishing races.
They certainly have, but unfortunately they won the battle but lost the war, as Citgo Superguard in second place nails the national championship.
And they kind of do a little salute by jumping high out of the water for the fans. As you can see, you can still lose those boats as they go down between the rollers here off of South Padre Island. And look at Baja charging through for third.
Team Baja, this is, again, a fine finish for them. They actually challenged for and led the race for quite a while here. At the end, though, the other 2 teams were just able to get by them and maintain just a slight margin.
Here's our Powerboat magazine leaderboard. The results for the Offshore B, Dramamine takes the win. High-performance boats. Baja, speed changes you. And by Citgo Superguard Motor Oil, the official motor oil of the American Powerboat Association. Citgo, when it counts. Well, there's the Dramamine, and they've got to be happy. A big win for them. We're going to go down and meet the winners.
We finally got a maintenance man over here, Phil Halt's, taking care of the boat, and since he started and Sterling started on our motors, we haven't lost a race, so congrats to them, and thanks to all those guys, to Dramamine for sending us down here, and it's been a great last 4 races for us now.
Bruce has a look in his eye like, look out for next year.
Yeah. What more can we do? We won the last 4, so we didn't win it, but we got 4 wins.
In Offshore B, here's your Citgo Superguard points. Citgo Superguard taking the national championship.
Nigel Hook, Jay Johnson, another national championship.
It feels really good to get the second one in a row in B class, especially good because the Citgo Superguard crew are here. They've done a lot for the sport and a lot for us, and it's just wonderful today. Feel great.
Jay, you really pounded this year. You just got after it and stayed after it.
Well, thank you. It's been a tremendous year. We got lucky at times, and Citgo worked hard for us, so we just really appreciate it.
In Offshore A, your Citgo Supercard points show us In Motion was the winner with 743 points.
How do you feel about that national championship?
It's speechless. I mean, my second year racing last year, I was APBA Rookie of the Year, and this year national champs. It's a dream come true. I mean, my highest expectations, you know, and it came true. Unbelievable. It takes people 30, 40 years to get there, and we did good. We did good.
Well, a great racing season begets yet another great racing season. Next year, they're already looking ahead with great plans. Here's the commissioner of the APBA Offshore, Gene Whip.
Going into next year, just new things happening. The state of the boat racing is just coming along. The status quo of the rules seem to be working very well. The parity's been excellent. New boats being built, and we just look forward to it to just continue the way it's going.
I understand that there are cities knocking on the door. We're bursting at the seams with events for next season.
Well, we've actually got more applications in for cities than we have sites or schedule available to. And, you know, when you consider back 2 years ago, we didn't even know whether we were going to have a season. Certainly, it's come to pass, and it certainly is growing. And great race sites, too. Just great cities. Looking forward to next year.
Great reason to keep up with APBA Offshore Racing at our website, apba-offshore.com. Now, this boat, along with the rest of the field and others to join it, will be heading to Biloxi, Mississippi. We've decided national championships. We've yet to decide the world champions. Our thanks to Jeff Girardi and his crew at Aerial Photography, Freeze Frame Video. They've done a great job with our aerial shots. Tri-County Incorporated, reliable two-way radios, customized communications, qualified technical assistance, Ohio and Florida. Give them a call. We want to say also congratulations to the P1 Hooters team and the S10 Citrashine, both champions in the production and the stock classes respectively. And congratulations to all of our winners today. For Rich Lures, this is Dick Crippen. We'll see you next from Biloxi, Mississippi.